Okay, so here's the thing. If the Nicolaitans people, you know them better as Christians, follow me. If the Nicolaitan people were under the influence to in their religious practices, they were a people who practiced a religion that was titled Christianity, often encouraged by an emperor in ancient days named Serapis. Serapis was a heavy emperor who practiced the religion of Christianity. And this particular religious, this behavior became practice that later on was adopted by Rome. As the Greeks began to dominate the Roman Empire, they began to infiltrate their customs, their doctrines, their beliefs, because they were people who were sun god worshippers. There's this, call it what it is. That their particular lifestyles, their gods, their religious beliefs became the behavior of an entire nation of people. Other nations begin to adopt this custom. Here brings in the people of Israel, Israel, or the Hebrew Israelites, who were people who worship the Most High. We were a people who believed and followed the teachings of the Torah. Later on, an emperor came into power, and his name was Constantine. Constantine, who, if you do the research, was a person who liked the Hebraic or the Torah teachings to a point, but he was a sun worshiper. He decided he was going to incorporate, because at that time he was in power, he was going to incorporate the teachings of Serapis, or the I forgot the name of the people. I just call. I forgot their names. And so he incorporated. He made it a mandate across the entire land that the religion of Christianity would be taught around the entire land. That anyone who was doing anything other than that would be considered a person who was in violation of the law. And the penalty for that would be death. So if the Nicolaitan people, that's what I'm talking about. So he adopted the religious practices of the Nicolaitan people and made it a law. So here you go with the spirit of Christianity widely, vastly taking over the land. And the more that it grew, the less of the Hebraic teachings became popular, to the point they were trying to eliminate us as a people anyway. That was the whole ideal. That was the practice, was to eliminate the practice of, or the teachings of the Torah, and they were successful. They were very successful. Here today, we are still operating under that same manipulative spirit, that witchcraft spirit. Churches today or still operating under the influence of the Nicolaitans people. You call it Christianity. If you read your word in Samaria, Paul, the disciples hated to be called Christians because at that time the word Christian was actually pronounced Cretan. Cretan was created from the Nicolaitan people. That's what they called the Nicolaitan people, Cretans. Okay? So when Paul and Peter and all of those disciples who started teaching the teachings of Yeshua, the people thought that they were teaching the teachings of the Cretans. And so that's why they called them Cretans or Christians, because it was the same influence and had that same impact on the land that the Nicolaitan people had during the time of that teaching. Y'all follow what I'm saying? So now we were labeled as Christians. See, how can Yeshua, you know him as Jesus Christ, again, another false teaching that was created and we followed, we digested, and we're living by today. But anyway, that's not my topic. That's not my issue today. My issue is getting you to understand that if Yeshua is, let me put it like, if the religious practice of the Nicolaitan people is 200 years older than the existence of Yeshua, before it's 200 years older before Yeshua came to the earth. You heard? It's 200 years. It's already 200 years old before Yeshua started to proclaim the truth of the Besoa or the Torah. You know what I'm saying? Y'all follow me? So if that's the case, then how can the disciples be considered Christians, as you like to determine it, followers of Christ, when Yeshua, or aka Jesus Christ, had not existed yet? Christianity had already been in the atmosphere. It had already been taught. They've been teaching this 200 years prior to when Yeshua came to the earth. So, and he didn't teach that. That's not what Yeshua taught. But we've been taught, we have grown up, we have been decades, centuries, our ancestors taught to believe. We've been brainwashed. That's why the scripture that be transformed by the renewing of your mind is so important, because we have to have a brainwashing calling. We have to have our brains washed from the deception of lies and untruths that we've been so accustomed to practice and believe in, and then teach our children's, and their children's teach their children. We've got to stop that. But see, what happens is we don't investigate. We don't study. You know what I'm saying? We just surface readers. We read what's on the surface and we assume it is what it is. And you argue with people like me who try to bring you some truth. You want to deny what I'm telling you, when I'm only telling you what the Besoa and what the Most High is telling me to tell you in regards to this. It's not true. It's not true. Christianity has nothing to do with Yeshua or Yahweh, Elohim. Nothing. It is a practice that has done nothing more but enslaved you, us, in bondage as a people, to digest their doctrines, their teachings. You know, Yahuwah had been saying all along through the scriptures, you know, in the book of Jeremiah, he speaks about, refrain from their customs, their teachings. He's been saying it all along. He's been telling you in the book of Deuteronomy, he's been telling you, don't do this. He's been telling you in the book of Isaiah, been telling you don't do that. But here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. In the book of Revelations, where he actually says, I hate the Nicolaitans people. Yeah, that's right. He says, I hate the Nicolaitans people for what they have taught my people. You've taught them your doctrines. You taught them your customs. You taught them how to eat your food. All kinds of things like that. And the Father says, I hate them. In translation, he says, I hate the Christians. It's in the book of Revelations. But if you never research to find out what that word Nicolaitan is, you're going to believe that it was some group of people that the Father dislikes. It was the behavior, it was the culture that they were teaching. And you walk around here today proud to call yourself a Christian. Really? Do you really understand what you're calling yourselves? You are the very people that the Most High hates. Shabbat Shalom. Shalom Aleichem to you all.